All right. Tony Salas here with Diesel Talk. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Well, it is because I've been lazy. Actually, I just came back from 5 weeks being back east. Actually, 1 week in San Jose, another week, 5 weeks, 4 weeks. Tony, get the math right. 1 week in San Jose and actually 4 weeks out back east doing training. So yeah, Tony's been visiting shops and training shops. Decided to take a road trip with that, and it was pretty exciting. Well, exhausting too, a lot of hours of driving. But well, as I've been viewing forums, and I don't know why I stay on some forums on Facebook and watch like the 6.0 Power Stroke or the 6.4. It amazes me how everybody wants to scan a vehicle. So this video is actually for the do-it-yourselfer or the beginner apprentice. Is because one thing you got to understand is, and I did do a video on this, but I just want to reiterate some things that may or may not be understood, and that is, what is a diagnostic trouble code? Now, often you have seen that check engine light, as you can see here on the screen. Well, the thing is, you got to understand what that check engine light is all about. I mean, today is you turn the key on a newer vehicle, and I'm talking about 2015 and newer. It's amazing that the light show you get on the light display, all these little troubleshooting issues or lights that can come on when there's an issue for various different subsystems or what is engaged, such as something as frivolous as your fog lights. You got that light come on. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is the check engine light, we pretty much got to address real quickly what it's all about. Now, you got to understand, it's all about emissions. Now, back in 1996, through the Clean Air Act, we actually had this thing called OBD2 come about, Onboard Diagnostics Generation 2. And it pretty much stated that if emissions exceed 1.5 times over the federal test procedure limits, the check engine light or malfunction indicator lamp, as we call it, the MIL lamp, must illuminate. That is law. So therefore, any type of emission or emission related or anything that affects emissions. So I guess, to be honest with you, if you really think about it, the diagnostic trouble code, or better yet, not the trouble code, excuse me, the malfunction indicator lamp or the check engine light is actually government owned in reality, because that's what makes it come on. So how many times have I heard in the past, hey, Tony, why does the truck have this problem? But yet, you know, it had no light on the dash for that. It's like, well, it's because it didn't violate emissions. And if you really think about it, many manufacturers will do their best or strategies for the computer take to keep that light off. But at that point, there's going to come a point where it has to turn the light on. Since we're dealing with diesels here, we look at regeneration, and regeneration is the process of burning soot. And the computer needs to know the fuel level. So obviously the fuel level sender, now known as the fuel level gauge or sensor, is actually now part of the emission system, because the system has to know A, the fuel consumed, and B, the level, to see if it's not too full or not too empty to actually run a regeneration. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is that, is a fuel level sensor going to cause a diagnostic trouble code to be set? Yes. But will the check engine light be on? Yes. So again, we got to understand this. So the law was simple, is that if there's emissions and the vehicle is going to run, very dirty 1.5 times over, it's going to have to actually turn on the check engine light. So let's get that clear. So it's an emission related light. That's why in the past we used to have, like when I used to work for GM, was we used to have service engine soon or service vehicle soon, right? So therefore that was actually another different kind of message. So, we got to understand that. So with that said, you look at a gauges. I use this, I got to update it, but I use this a lot in my classes. And you're going to see there's the check engine light on the Chevy Silverado. It's an LML Duramax and probably a 2012. And we see the SER light right there. That's what we call the SER light. So when we look at this light, many of you may not know what it means. Now, I have gone over this in the past, but let's get it clear. That light right there, as I just zoomed it in, is actually your NOx reduction light, or something with SER. Many people interpret it, well, it's low on DEF fluid. Well, it could be, but it also means that there's a problem where he can, one of two things is, number one is he hasn't been able to verify there's adequate NOx reduction, because since this vehicle has to diagnose himself, again, OBD2, it has to diagnose himself. He has to know if there's a NOx reduction problem. So backtrack a second, real quickly. With after treatment, we're trying to reduce NOx and we're trying to reduce soot. Okay, we're trying to trap the soot, better yet. But this is dedicated for NOx. So when I ask this question, even to my technicians that I train, I ask them, what is this light for? They're like, has to do with the DPF. No, It only has to do with selective catalyst reduction, which is SCR, which is the DEF fluid stuff that actually is used to reduce the NOx. So if you still have not understood, the sole purpose of using DEF fluid is so that it readily converts into ammonia and it actually breaks up the NOx, NOx, oxides of nitrogen. So that's a NOx light. So once again, what does this light tell us? So us as technicians, and you as a do-it-yourselfer, if you want to learn a little bit, is that that light is telling me one of two things. Is A, it means that the computer has not been able to verify, the conditions have not been met for him to see if there's NOx reduction. Or B, he is not reducing the NOx. Now, if he's not reducing the NOx, that means that's a malfunction. So it's going to try to isolate where the issue is, whether it be a NOx sensor, the pump, the actual reductant or DEF fluid injector. Then you would have the check engine light, which is telling us we got a diagnostic trouble code. So in this case, we see that. So I can have a truck come in where I will only have that NOx light on the left on and no check engine light. So that tells me immediately that a diagnostic trouble code is not set. No test has failed, but it tells me that he hasn't been able to verify adequate NOx reduction. Now we have a pre and post NOx sensor in that exhaust system, right next to the turbo and right to the tail end of the exhaust, depending what model we're talking about. You're going to have a NOx 1 and NOx 2. I know it's changing with the newer trucks, but what I'm trying to say is he's saying, hey, this is the NOx I started off with, and this is the NOx I have now. So therefore, I have not seen that reduction, which is a minimum of 75% on the average. But what I'm saying is he's not seeing NOx reduction. So therefore, he's telling you, hey, I have been to verify it. So which means most likely that it just has not got hot enough. So the biggest problem with these after treatment systems, these exotic high dollar pain in the butt that a lot of you want to delete, is that they actually don't get warm enough. So sometimes we have to drive the truck hard to try to figure out what's going on there. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is that understand those lights and what they are. So MIL light is for emission related failure. The SCR light is A, NOx reduction, or haven't been able to verify NOx reduction. So therefore, if he hasn't been able to test the NOx levels because it's so cold at exhaust, that means, and by the way, we need those exhausts to reach those temperatures. We call it light off temperatures. Yes, that's a technical term, light off temperatures, LITOFF. It hasn't reached those light off temperatures to do its job to actually reduce the NOx because it needs heat. So sometimes that's the case, but there could be other factors as well, but that's more intense. But for now, I just needed you to know that. And just to show you some of the ridiculousness that we get here, we get a truck that comes in, and this truck was pretty interesting because you're going to notice that this one, I never had seen this before, but in this case, you're going to see that it says reduced engine power, stop safely now. It literally is saying stop safely now. So therefore the truck is really derated. What was the cause? Well, we know already because we run a diagnostic, but I'm not going to give it away right away. I'm just going to show you what the diagnostic trouble codes, because a lot of you think I'm going to have it scanned. That's going to tell me what's wrong. And I really resent those companies that are trying to sell you these doohickeys that actually you plug it in. It's going to tell you what's most of the possibilities. That's like playing roulette. Is it A? Is it red? Or is it black? Or is it 21? Whatever, What I'm trying to say is that it's not always going to tell you what's wrong. I mean, and I tell customers, they used to tell me, hey, Tony, can you hook up the scan tool to see what's going on? And I would tell them, if a scan tool or these computers were so smart, I wouldn't have a job. So with that case, as we look at this scan on, this is my Ford IDS on a Ford Power Stroke, the same truck actually, and you're going to see the various different codes. PO192, we'll start off with that. Fuel rail pressure sensor low. But in this case, what I'm just trying to demonstrate how things can get really out of hand. Now, this is a nightmare for a technician at first, if he doesn't know what he's doing. Look at all the different codes. I mean, we got a lot of error, a lot of failures because a test is a code. And I see all these tests have failed. Turbocharger, turbo boost pressure low. We see boost control A performance, engine air filter restriction, particulate filter over temperature, catalyst over temperature. And the list goes on and on related to soot and the diesel particulate filter, right? Well, yeah, obviously we got a particulate filter problem. There are other things I'm going to do to verify it. But what was the cause? There you go. So in this case, this was all caused by a restricted air filter. Now the check engine light came on because he saw major soot accumulation, because this exhaust was running a very rich fuel exhaust to the point it didn't even go over 10 miles an hour. So therefore, this kind of proves that, running a diagnostic and understand what you're looking at with the codes, because did we not see a code for air filter restriction? But yet again, like I said, when we run a basic diagnosis, we see that we're supposed to do a visual inspection. One of them is the air filter. Ask the customer when they last changed the fuel filters, and on and on. All the basics. We do not connect the scan tool first. And those instructors that teach that, oh, you connect the scan tool, no, 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 because you need to look at what's going on in the engine. You visually have to see, not to mention safety items like a belt. What if a hose ready to rip off or it's leaking? You need to do those checks. So in a nutshell, what I just want to tell you, hey, I'm back. Sorry I missed quite a few months of videos, but in this case, I want to let you know that, hey, understand those lights and also understand that it's not always going to find you the trouble. Now, we got lucky on this one because, yeah, it did have an air filter restriction code, but the technician should not, or neither should you, actually look at, I got to scan it to see what's going on. No, no, no. You actually have to first what? Do some visuals, look under the hood, and yeah, look at the air filters. And I hope you're doing maintenance on the engine oil and the belts, the hoses, the cooling system, and obviously making sure you use good quality fuel. So with that, that's it. I'll be posting more later on, but I'd like to thank you. And any comments, subscribe, whatever, do whatever you want to do. Obviously, I don't make money on this YouTube stuff, but I do it because I want to help you out. So I appreciate it, but we still take a like and we'll still take a subscribe. With that, we'll see you till next time.